day before Thanksgiving sidelines.
I don't eat today.
Yeah, fasting. A lot of people fasting today. Rob Brown broadcasted live 0.97 miles from Truist Park, home of the Atlanta Braves and the Battery. Yancy Porter hopefully going to join us here in just a minute. I'm telling you right now, executive producer Brendan Martin is in Ocala, Florida, Marion County. Everybody is getting ready for Thanksgiving, and God, do we have a lot to be thankful for. Jacques Doucet checks in WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge at 15 after. At 30 after, hopefully Chef Roger Watson checks in from up in Indianapolis talking about, hey, turkey preparation. What can you do? He's going to give us a few minutes on that. Don't overcook it. He says Americans are caught up in thinking you got to overcook your turkey, and it's dried out like one of Gandhi's flip-flops, he says. It's just not a good way to do it. And we've got Dudley Dawson, hogville.net. Will check in with us right after that, along with Vince Ferrara in the Sports Animal in Knoxville, Tennessee. And Brendan, everybody, take your phone and take a picture of that QR code and subscribe to our channel. Follow us on X at @RobBrown_. Leave us a comment. We love your comments and questions to come in during the show. It's a lot of fun to try to answer them. We can't answer all of them, but we try to see them. There's a lot going on here during the show, but we're going to be covering a whole lot of ground in the next hour and change. And we are here, live streaming. So tell your friends, watch us live. If you miss it, you can watch it whenever you want to because it's posted immediately after we go off the air. All right. Hopefully, Yancy's going to be able to check in with us from Oxford. In the meantime, let's pull up, if we can, the playoff rankings came out last night. And what we have been saying, Brendan, is that in November, and here it is, November, 27th, okay? It is the 27th of November, all right? And there are still a lot of teams thinking there's a chance we make the playoffs, okay? So we'll start in those rankings. Look at there. Oregon at number 1 in the Big Ten. They kind of been there all year. Ohio State, number 2. We already saw them play in a head-to-head match. 32-31, Oregon won out in Eugene. Texas from the SEC, number 3. So 2 Big Tens and an SEC. Penn State. I just don't get it.
I
Penn
don't get
State. James Franklin's record against top 5 opponents is 1-13. Okay. Okay. Notre Dame. Well, 70 million Catholics in this country. They've got a built-in. They're always going to have a seat at the table. Miami at number 6, way overrated. They have been skating on thin ice most of this season. Georgia Tech took them down for the second year in a row. Georgia. I think Georgia's the best team in the SEC because of that win at Texas when Texas was number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee, Brendan, number 8. No, they're not the 8th best team in the country.
No.
I don't think they are. I mean, I don't think they should not make the playoffs, but Georgia manhandled them, and they lost at Arkansas. They beat Alabama. How valuable is that victory? We're going to talk about that today. SMU, yeah, that seems fair. 10-1. Who have they really put? Indiana at number 10. Their schedule's a joke. They got drilled by Ohio State, but they're 10-1. Now it's a record-driven thing. Boise State, number 11. Man, Ashton Gentry, the running back, he's kind of the face of that program. Clemson, number 12. All right, there you go. They got drilled early by Georgia, lost another game, pretty convincingly. Both losses, they lost by a lot. Alabama at number 13. If you thought Alabama was maybe going to mail it in and just take it easy against Auburn, you're crazy, because they are right on the outside looking to get into the playoff. And if they think, okay, let's play a great game against Auburn, we're in. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we'll
That
see. And then you got 14 Ole Miss, which we want to
yeah.
talk to Yancy Porter. Yancy, welcome to the program, sir. How are you? Ole Miss stumbled in the swamp, sir.
Yeah, they kind of resorted to some bad habits there that we saw against Kentucky and LSU, and that's inability to score in the red zone. In those three losses, they are 0 for 12 in the
Well,
against Florida, LSU, and Kentucky. All three teams that they don't score any points. So it comes back to the lack of running game that is kind of reared its head. Um, Lane tried to play a science project in the game and played a eight string wide receiver kick returner and put him as the featured running back in the game. Absolutely backfired. Maybe possibly the worst coaching decision in Ole Miss history in any sport. I think there's been a big debate about that, but had too much time on his hands with the bye week. Try to outthink himself and got out thunk,
well, Yancey,
so to
the,
speak.
yeah, the rebels are right there. We're just looking. Alabama's 13, Ole Miss is 14. So it's getting very NFL like. Mathematically, they're still in the hunt. Okay, so tell me this: make a case for Ole Miss. Everybody being dialed in against Mississippi State, or not.
It looks like Yancey just dropped off. He'll come back in hopefully here in a second. But I think it was interesting to hear what he had to say about resorting to past ways and to past things.
Yeah.
Is that a coaching problem? Yancey's coming back in with us right now. Yancey, you go ahead and finish your statement there. I was just sort of dovetailing what you were saying.
Yeah, I don't know what you caught or not caught.
No, we got
Where
most
you,
of it there, where you were just talking about resorting to past mistakes into old things and some of the scheming thing. And I just was asking Rob, is that a coaching thing, or what you thought that was?
yeah, I said that Lane outthunk himself. He had a couple weeks in there during that bye week and decided to play about an eight-string wide receiver as the featured running back, and try to play a science game, and it backfired. It's been debated. People are saying it's probably the worst coaching decision in the history of Ole Miss in any sport. You put a guy that has only gotten in a couple snaps of wide receiver all season, and you decide to make him the featured running back. Bentley got zero carries. Thomas
Yeah.
got two carries in the fourth quarter. So the guys that you kind of settled in on these last couple of weeks when you've gotten on a roll, you decide to put them on the bench and you put in a guy that's never played running back in his life. And I believe he averaged 1.2 carries, 1.2 yards a carry during the game. And it just out it just laying out thunk himself. Some of the people that are so smart, they're too smart sometimes. You ever heard that? I think that kind of happens to Lane sometimes, and having that bye week, having 2 weeks to, put on the Scientology kind of cap and see what he could muster up. He had too much time on his hands.
Hmm.
Yancey,
Interesting.
you think about Trey Harris. How important is he to the team? And what about the year? How much could he have helped if he'd have been healthy all year?
That definitely played a factor, but I think it was more of Ole Miss's inability to run the ball and deciding to go with a 155-pound punt kick returner that's barely played this year more than Trey Harris. I really do. I don't think it was. I mean, yes, it hurts. Obviously, arguably the top receiver in the country, not having him available. I believe he played the first quarter when he got hurt on the touchdown catch, and then the next pass, when he fumbled the ball there on the 10-yard line. But I really think it's more the inability to run the ball there. I do, and look, and I take nothing away from Florida. Florida, I said it. I said it last week.
Yeah.
Against LSU, they're playing at a very high level, very high level. It's amazing the turnaround that team. I mean, you look at them stat wise. They're giving up, I believe, the next to the most rushing yards in the conference, the next to the worst last rushing team in the conference, and they are not playing that way at all right now. They are red hot. They are playing at extremely high level.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, their quarterback is big time player, going to be a great player in the conference over the next few years. They got an exciting team, and everybody made fun of them keeping Napier this when they made that decision, and their AD looks like he's smelling roses right now because that really unified the team, the fan base. It was a great decision by Florida. I'll say that.
Yeah, well, a lot of discussion there, and I think DJ Lagway obviously is the major difference there for him, and hats off to Billy for recruiting him and keeping him there and keeping his locker room together. I think is the biggest thing that you have to give him credit for is keeping these guys that have a lot of want to win. I asked this week, were you at the press conference afterwards? Did you go to the game, or you stayed at home?
No, I was right there, 5 yards behind the bench
Oh, I missed
from
you.
the
I
Ole
would have
Miss
come and said
bench.
hi to you. Well,
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
went to the post game presser. What was that all? What did you think about Lane's comments about just the playoffs and stuff in the post game?
Well, I mean, obviously at that time, he thought it was over. It was a done deal that Ole Miss was done. You didn't know that about seven other teams, that were in contention, that were ranked and or right there around it, also lost for the day. So now it's kind of a different tune today. But I think Lane knew that you know he was going to have to face the music. I mean, who puts in literally a seventh string wide receiver kick returner that's never played running back in his life, and you sit down your top two main guys, and you play a science project, and you put him as the featured running back in the game? I think he knew that he absolutely kind of poo-pooed in his pants. I think he knew that he was going to get absolutely crucified. And once he got back to Oxford, which he has, the criticism of Lane has probably been as vicious as I've ever seen for any coach in any sport since that Florida game.
Well, Yancy, you look at the expectations, and Jacques Doucet is going to be on with us in just a minute from Channel 9 down in Baton Rouge, covers LSU and the SEC. They're not happy in Baton Rouge. Ole Miss here at 8-3 with the Egg Bowl staring them in the face. Mathematically, still alive, about a 25% chance they can make the playoffs. This was the year we talked about playoff or bust. I don't know where bust is. Get a map, but still alive. That's the thing. And it's
Yeah,
making every game matter. This is what people
it
need
is.
to realize. Lane Kiffin's got a tough job to do right now. He's got to pick these guys up, and that was a devastating loss in the swamp.
Yeah.
It's never been an easy place to play. You look. It wasn't like you were crowing, like a banny rooster about we're going to go down there and clean their clock in the swamp. You have been talking about this game all year long. You knew
Yep.
what a challenge it
Yep.
was going to be, and
Yep.
Lane Kiffin. You go from the highs of beating Georgia couple of weeks earlier to the lows of losing. But again, it ain't like you're losing to, Mercer. You're losing to
No.
Florida, which is a great program. And the swamp crowds, that's a tough place to play. But you know what? Ole Miss cares, Florida cares, LSU cares, all these fan bases care. What do you think happens? What has to happen for Ole Miss to make the playoffs? And I'll let you go. I know you've got a
Real
busy
simple.
morning. We're running a little bit behind on schedule. I want to keep Jacques in, but what's got to happen, in your opinion, for Ole Miss to make the CFP 12?
I think it's real simple. I mean, they're going through this right now on the message boards through this game and this game. Two games that got to happen to me. Period. Auburn has to beat Alabama, and Vandy has to beat Tennessee, and Ole Miss becomes the third pick in the SEC. If they're the third pick behind Tennessee and Georgia, excuse me, Tennessee and Texas, I don't see any way that they're only going to take two SEC teams in the playoffs. They're going to take at least three and probably four. Obviously, if Georgia Tech beats Georgia, that would help Ole Miss as well, but I don't think that's realistic. So, they got to go back to the old buddy Hugh Freeze. They got to rely on him, which is kind of ironic. Which
Yeah.
is kind of ironic. But those are the two games. Vandy needs to beat Tennessee, and Auburn needs to beat Alabama. If those two things happen, I think Ole Miss makes the playoffs.
All right,
If they
Yancy,
don't,
look.
I don't think they do.
Yeah, and it is not going to be. There are no easy games in this league. Hey, happy Thanksgiving. Catch Yancy, folks,
You
on the
two
Rebel Yell
guys.
Hotline Monday nights, Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis, and all over Super Talk Mississippi. And we'll do it again next Tuesday and just see what happens, Yancy. But man, what a weekend! Week 14, and we still don't know going into it who the other team is for Atlanta and how many teams are going to make the playoffs. This is great. Take care, Yancy.
Thank you, guys. God bless.
Same to you. God bless you. All right. Jacques Doucet, the man from Lafayette, Louisiana, WAFB Channel 9, two-time Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year, covers LSU and the SEC. And Jacques, let's talk about LSU right now, where things are. The season, not like people hoped it would be, but what is Brian Kelly saying about, there you are. Y'all got to meet down on the sidelines a couple of weeks ago. What an atmosphere that was. Talk about the swamp, what that was like, and, of course, Death Valley. That's kind of two legendary venues.
Yeah, it was great to meet Brendan in person. And I have to say, very impressed with Florida and the swamp. They've had back-to-back beautiful Saturdays there in terms of weather and the results. I mean, great days for college football in the South. Certainly took it to LSU and turned around and did the same thing to Ole Miss. So I've always, the few times I've met Billy Napier, certainly I thought he's a nice guy, certainly did things at UL Lafayette that have never been done before in terms of winning at that level. And looks like for the moment he's weathered the storm. He has a quarterback, a 5-star quarterback moving forward. I know their recruiting has been not the highest ranked in the world, but there's time to change that. And so I don't want to.
Well, recently, Jacques, yesterday, they flipped 3 guys, had a huge recruiting bonanza the last couple of days, actually, for Florida, which is all result of what you're talking about. So.
Well, great. Well, there you go. And so, I'm not going to get into who LSU should have hired in 2022. We've talked about it here. There were 4 major hires made in college football between Lincoln Riley, USC, Brent Venables, Oklahoma, Brian Kelly, LSU, and then Billy Napier at Florida. And Kelly's got the best record easily of the 4. But I do think that Napier, had he gone to LSU, I think he would have had a lot more success than he's had at Florida to this point because of his Louisiana connections and whatnot. Although, I mean, I don't know if he would have gotten Jaden Daniels, probably not. And so, there's that whole back to the future thing, what would have happened, as the dominoes fall. But good to see him having success there. And Florida on the upswing. It's funny. I interviewed Danny Warfel before the season started. And he said, if we go 8-4, it'd be a spectacular year. And, from Florida's perspective, you don't think of 8-4 as a spectacular year, but with the schedule they had and the circumstances, it would have been. So, hey, 7-5 if they can beat Florida State and then go to a bowl game.
Yeah. Jacques, LSU's standards really high, too. You've had 3 coaches win national championships before Brian Kelly gets there in this millennium, which is an incredible fact. Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Coach O. What does Brian Kelly got to do to get to 11 and 12 and beyond wins?
Well, I think they need more talent. It's interesting. He's coming in at a time where his run at LSU is basically running parallel to NIL, transfer portal, all these things kicking in. If he'd become the head coach in 2012 instead of 2022, I think it'd be obviously be a lot different. What you just talked about. I mean, teams are all over the place because there's no super teams anymore, because a third string guy at Alabama years back would stay there because they had no choice. Now they're getting poached to go to other schools. And I mean, you look at Texas A&M, they punched LSU in the mouth. They were in position to, have a great year. They go to South Carolina, get drilled. They go to Auburn and lose a crazy, 4 overtime game. Alabama has looked tremendous at times. And then last week at Oklahoma, at Vanderbilt, they fall in their face. Ole Miss, same thing, lose to Kentucky at home, but then beat Georgia at home. I mean, it's all over the place. And so I think that they need to get some more talent. I think that they're lacking in spots. They lost Bryce Underwood to Michigan, who was their crown jewel of this recruiting class. But now that frees up money to go get a lot of other players in the transfer portal or what have you. And, it's getting harder for me. I mean, I'll always love college football. I don't love it as much as I used to. I mean, some of this stuff makes me a little nauseous, whether it's a coach getting a huge buyout to do nothing or to give a teenager millions of dollars who hasn't proven anything yet. And guys opting out on their teammates or not playing in bowl games or leaving teams altogether. I mean, this stuff is not what I grew up on and not was preached in terms of team and we're all in it together and blah, blah, blah. So I can be old man shouting at the cloud, so to speak.
You're right.
I mean, that's kind of where I feel about it. I mean, I was on a basketball team. I was skinny as a rail. I never played. And yet, I was expected to go to every single practice and I skipped one. The coach had a practice on Super Bowl Sunday, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to practice today," and I didn't go, and I had to run suicides, and I was suspended, even though I wasn't even playing. But but those are the things they taught you, at least when I was coming up. So, that's where it is where it is now. And as Will Wade, the basketball coach, told me, these are the rules of engagement, and so you either get on board or you get left behind. So he needs more talent, and they need to have a discussion and. Hey, what's the plan here, and how can we get one of those playoff spots? Because in year 3 at $10 million a year for Kelly, you expected that was a reasonable expectation.
You do, and I'll say this: I agree with what you just said, and you're not yelling at the clouds. You're right, and what we've got is the adults are trying to be best friends with the kids. The tail's wagging the dog, and allowing that narrative to control the temperature in the room for negotiations is why we're in the mess that we're in. You just tell them, say, this is how it's going to be. Shut up and dribble. I mean, that's how it's got to be. It's my way or the highway. I think that's how you can always, but I have 4 kids and they agree with me unsolicited. They say, Dad, it ain't the kids that are the problem today. I mean, they're 24 to 35 and they're going, it's the adults. They go, and they say, I'm not going to say what, but they are. They're like, you're very hard on us, but I actually get complimented. But Jacques, you just said it best, and Brenda knows this. We've all played sports growing up. Some of us, sometimes we started, sometimes we didn't, but we were part of a team. Okay, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Brian Kelly, what was going on with him and I think Karan Lacey on the sideline of the Florida game?
I think it was Chris Hilton.
I'm sorry, Chris Hilton. That's right, Chris Hilton. Yeah, my apologies.
Yeah. Coach Kelly and Hilton. I mean, it's been a frustrating deal because I know Coach Kelly knows that he's got potential. Hilton does. Yeah. He's got a lot of speed, but he's just been plagued with injuries. And this year, I think he missed the first 6, 7, 8 games of the year. He didn't play until the Texas A&M game, and there was kind of some bizarre stuff going on. I don't know why. Because for the first game of the year, he was, quote, questionable, and then he didn't play for weeks after that. I think Coach Kelly called him Chris Hinton at a press conference a couple of times, got his name wrong. That never feels
that
good.
Never helps.
Right?
Don't ever do it on a date either.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Call her your ex name or the girl you went out with the night before, right?
Yeah.
So he mistimed his jump on a few and jumping up for passes, and I think Coach Kelly kind of got him a little bit, and they had a moment there, and so Coach Kelly is not old, but he's older than a Lane Kiffin or your guy over at Tulane, John Summerall, or some of these up and coming coaches. He's 63 now, and I don't fault Coach Kelly for having kind of an old school in your face mentality. But in today's Twitter age and whatnot, where people get their feelings hurt and parents get to see everything, and it's a little harder to pull that off. But yeah, that was an interesting exchange there.
Let's talk about that matchup with Oklahoma. You saw what they did to Alabama. That's a program with a lot of pride, 6th or 7th winningest program in the history of college football. LSU's like 10th or 11th. What's the crowd going to be like Saturday? Is that team still engaged? Because remember just a few years ago when you only had 38 players, scholarship players, show up for that bowl game. I'm not going to say on the air what I would do to those guys. They would never be allowed on campus again. But it's so much. There's 102,000 people at every game. I'm Tanner Stein and Quentin Stein, my friends that have Stein Home and Yard all over Louisiana. They're in our hunting club. Great guys. Jared Montague. I know a ton of LSU friends and fans. I go to Catholic church with them all. It's like a LSU church, but they're furious about all this stuff, and they're fans, and they contribute to that program. Are they going to have 102,000 there Saturday? I mean, this is a big game. 2 name programs for sure.
Yeah, I don't think so. Typically this game after Thanksgiving, whether it was Arkansas for years on Friday or Texas A&M for years on Saturday, it's hard to get a packed stadium. Both teams are unranked. But it is historic that Oklahoma has never played in Tiger Stadium. LSU's only played Oklahoma 3 times. All those were in postseasons. I think it was like a 1949 Sugar Bowl. 2003, LSU, of course, beat Oklahoma in the BCS National Championship. And in 2019, LSU beat Oklahoma like a drum in the college football playoff at 63-28 in Atlanta. So it's funny. We have season tickets. And if you look, the Vanderbilt, they have the prices on the tickets. Vanderbilt was $50 and this one's $110. So like the Oklahoma name brand, carries a lot of weight. So LSU's playing to go 8-4, they are angling towards maybe coming to see you in Memphis at the Liberty Bowl or a Texas Bowl or a Jacksonville Gator Bowl or a Music City in Nashville. I mean, that's what is happening. And Brian Kelly's record is 27 wins and 11 losses. It's 16 wins and 7 losses in the SEC, which, talking about Curly Hallman, who was 16-28 in his 4 years back. And so it is kind of funny to be talking about we're not happy with the coach and we're disgruntled. But when you're paying, like I said, you're paying $10 million a year, your coordinators are making $2 million, you're paying a lot of money for your tickets to park, to fight through the crowds, the traffic infrastructure in Baton Rouge has always been a struggle, leaving games, and not getting home till 2 a.m. or whatever. So, I think that's and fans are still daydreaming about 2019. The greatest thing about 2019 was that it happened and it was like a dream. And the worst thing about 2019 is that it's kind of not reality. That's not what happens every year. And you've been chasing that ever since. So, we got some, it's funny, I'm not going to be old man again shouting at cloud, but we had a couple of students.
I like old man shouting at the clouds.
Yeah, old man shouting at the cloud is right more than not. Last week we had a couple of students who had bags over their heads on the front row. It's like, man, you're 6-4. You're 6-4. This isn't like the 1 in 15 New Orleans Saints back in 1980. So kind of. You
remember that?
I don't. I was young, but I've heard all about it and seen it. So, but yeah, that kind of shows you how spoiled we've been. Is that 6-4, we're wearing bags over our heads. It hadn't been, the 3-game losing streak was no fun, but at the same time, it ain't that bad.
Yeah. Well, Jacques, and the thing about you is as a sports director there at WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge is you are out there on the beat. You're covering the high school, the college. You watch these guys from some of them Pop Warner League. You go that kid's going to be special one day. Before you go, I want to say happy Thanksgiving and look forward to having you on every time you're available. I know you're a very busy man, but I think you just touched on something. $50 tickets. I mean, that's $50 tickets to a college football game. LSU, that's pretty cool of them to sell them that because I'm looking at other schools. Wow, it didn't like that. Of course, you can go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and get a $2 hot dog, but the tickets are, $200. It's a different world. But leave us with one last thing. What's a compelling storyline with LSU? And then we're going to be getting into basketball here. It's cranking up. But What's a compelling story with LSU people need to be paying attention to going in to Oklahoma in the offseason?
Well, I think Oklahoma's got a quarterback that can run, Jackson Arnold, and he ran for, I think, 134 yards last week against Alabama, and LSU has had a hard time tackling quarterbacks who run the ball. It's amazing, to look at Jalen Milroe and his numbers. He had 7 yards rushing last week on 15 carries against Oklahoma. Vanderbilt held him to 10 yards on 7 carries. South Florida held him to 2 yards on 12 carries. I realize sacks come out of that. Tennessee, 14 carries, 11 yards. And at LSU, he runs for 185 yards on 12 carries. So it's this guy is not like Michael Vick, but they can't tackle running quarterbacks. So that's a big storyline in the game, I think. Speaking about that, LSU is going to honor some seniors that are playing their final home game. I think the LSU fans who show up will be loud. It'll be the last chance for a lot of them to see LSU play this year. These bowl games are not well attended. I've been to the last, the Texas Bowl was not well attended. The Citrus Bowl, the Rely Quest, the last 3, fans just aren't going. They would rather save their money for LSU playing in Las Vegas against USC to start the year this year than that, or hopefully LSU going to Omaha in baseball or whatever the case may be. So, but I think the fans that show up will be loud, and it's just kind of it'll be you're going through the history of LSU football. You won't look at 2024 and say, wow, that was a special year. It'll just be kind of a ho-hum season for LSU. But 8-4, I'm not great at math, but that's twice as many wins as losses. So that's what they're playing for.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, one of the best programs in the country, and you're one of the best. Look forward to your next visit. Thanks so much.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for having me.
Same to you. All right, man, let's bring in the dynamic duo, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, and Vince Ferrara, the sports animal up in Knoxville, is going to join us in a second. And guys,
Vince will join us.
If we're lucky, my friend, Chef Roger.
Vince has got some internet issues. He's going to join us.
Well, Chef Roger Watson's going to try to join us, Dudley, my friend up in Indianapolis, who's a great chef, and I hope he can make it. He's going to give us a few minutes to talk about how to do the turkeys. He said Americans, he's from the UK, said Americans are caught up in well done everything, and they get a lot of dried out turkeys. We all remember Christmas Vacation. Chevy Chase goes to cut the turkey, and it pops like an old balloon. Very interesting. Dudley, Vince is in transit, going to hopefully join us in a second. Hogs in Missouri, in Columbia. We had Alyssa Lang on the show from SEC Network Monday. She'll be the sideline reporter at that game. She said, I always look at the weather, and I'm looking at 19 degrees during the game for the low. She is excited about that. She loves games like that. She was being facetious. But this is a big one. Hogs are already bowl eligible. You can get to 7-5. Either way, what do you think happens with Sam Pittman? You don't traffic in rumors, which I love that quote. But people are saying, what's going to happen to Arkansas? They've accomplished, they get an extra 20 days of practice, but a 7th win and then an 8th win would be even better.
Yeah, and I guess you could still finish 6-7, obviously, if you lost these next 2 games. But it seems to me that the momentum for change has passed not only at Arkansas, but at a lot of schools. It would be strange if we didn't have somebody new coaching somewhere next year, but it doesn't appear right now it's going to be at Arkansas. And you got to give him and his staff credit. I think very many people were scared in that first quarter against Louisiana Tech when Arkansas's offense wasn't doing anything. But you put up, 35 points over the last 3 quarters. You gave yourself some momentum, and nobody around here is satisfied with 6 wins as the gold standard or anything like that. But as Coach Pittman has said before, it's better than 4 and better than not going to a bowl.
Yeah, it really is. Let me say something real quick about, you look at it, and Vince Ferrara checks in now from Knoxville. There's the interest right now. We don't know the other team for sure that's going to Atlanta. We do know Georgia's going to be there, and that gives Georgia a head start. As Coach Dye used to say, listen, you play in Georgia and Atlanta, and they got all those executive and those corporate suites. And I'm over in Atlanta right now. Been here all week at the Daughters. That's going to be 70 or 80% Georgia crowd, if not more, at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's going to be Texas or Texas A&M. But, man, Vince, let's throw you in. Tennessee, the Vols, I believe, are number 8. Georgia's number 7. And I saw a projection that if they were in the playoffs, it would be Georgia and Tennessee, Vince. And that would be a rematch from what we had on the 16th of November, Dudley. This is getting to be a little bit crazy with the 12-team playoff. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. You know how I love chaos. And chaos is coming with the 12 teams. There are several SEC teams that I thought for sure would be a part of this thing, and now they may not be. You have to give credit to those who have gone from the start of the season to the end of the season, basically winning the games they were supposed to. But there's been so many surprises that I don't think you would have drawn this up if you were Greg Sankey, huh?
No, you would not. I mean, I think the TV people love this stuff because every team in the top 25 right now thinks they're going to the playoffs. So I think you're going to see some intense matchups. Arkansas, Missouri. No, Missouri, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. They're too far out, but they're still mathematically they think they can do it. What does Arkansas need to do to get the win? Because it's a team that the Texas game 20-10. I mean, they're always going to play Texas hard. You beat La Tech, but what do they got to do to beat Missouri? Missouri's a decent team, and I think Arkansas remembers the heartbreak of last year, don't they?
Well, yeah, and I think not only was it a heartbreak, it was embarrassing. I mean, it was a punking situation, as they say. You got to give Eli Drakewitz a lot of credit. He coached just down the street from here, with Gus Malzahn and others at Springdale. He's from Alma. He absolutely loves to stir up stuff. It's entertaining as a sports writer, he's colorful in his language. Let's just put it that way. And he has become a villain here in the state of Arkansas to Razorback football fans. And I think he relishes that role. Arkansas has not had much success at all against Missouri. One win 3 years ago. They've only won 2 of the last 8. In the history that goes back to 1907, they've only won 4 out of 15. So, Missouri has owned them, and Eli, relishes that fact as well. He should. He's recruited well. He's a very good coach, regardless of what you think about, some of the stuff he says. And again, I say it's entertaining because I look for great quotes. But Arkansas is going to have to go up there, and it gets, I'm sure it gets old, but they can't have the turnovers, Taylor Green's got to throw to his guys, not the other guys. They've got to catch the ball. They've got to have a good running game, and I guess dress warmly.
Well, you think about where we are this conference this year. Give me your grade, your evaluation, 1 through 16 of the conference, because, and I've been kind of harping on this theme throughout the week on the shows, the SEC's reputation's on the line. How does the league get it back? Hell, you go win, and you got to win the national championship this year. But let's break the league down. Are there like tiers, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3? How do you see it?
First of all, overall, I expected it to be an A, but I think it's a B- bordering on a C+ right now because of the teams that we would have expected to be the strongest and put up the wins have had some slippage, I guess it would be. As far as tiers, it kind of changes each weekend, doesn't it? I mean, that last weekend, 3 teams just basically, dropped the ball, literally, and allowed themselves to be put in a talking situation instead of claiming a spot situation. And, it's hard for me to put them in tiers other than Mississippi State, has had a tough time, and it's down there at the bottom. You've got to cheer up from that, I guess. Arkansas and some others would be in. Vanderbilt coming back to the field a little bit, but man, I think Tennessee's going to win the game, and we'll get Rob in here in a minute, I'm sure. But Vanderbilt upsetting Tennessee, would that not be the apple cart going nuts? And as I've said, I'm here for it. I don't root for teams. I don't root against teams. I just root for situations.
Yeah. Well, you think about and Vandy, I think you're starting to see how little depth they really have. And you get into November, that's where you remember, the teams with depth. But really, I think what's causing the SEC to slip a little bit is those 2s and 3s that used to stick around on the depth chart to be developed. They're hitting the portal button. And here we go. Some interesting stuff. This will be the first full cycle in the transfer portal that we've got coming up, where players, whether they're every player from a graduate to a freshman can transfer within the portal without restriction. This is going to be chaos. And it's also the first portal cycle that schools are trying to, budget and acquire players based on projected revenue numbers. I took some notes, and a lot of college football players will have, a lot of college football teams will have 12 million plus budgets to spend. But we don't know where the house settlement's going to go either. That's coming up in April. All right. What we do know is we've got great sponsors like Winter Timber Outdoors. Check it out. Take a picture with your cellular phone of that QR code there. Rite, Masamara, GPS, BOGO, buy one, get one free. Black Friday special. Located in Athens, Alabama, right next to Huntsville. Open every day of the week. Look, all the shooting sports, duck hunting, dove hunting, deer hunting, quail, turkey, pheasant, grouse, prairie chickens, whatever you like, okay? Hog hunting, which is a lot of fun, shooting wild hogs. They're open every day of the week. They're going to grow in the footprint that is the SEC. Broke ground last week on a new store down in Auburn. They're looking at Fayetteville. They're looking in Athens at locations. They're scouting right now. They will be in an area near you. Check out that website. Take a picture of the QR code. They've got great gear. They're a big Sitka dealer, okay? They've got Dixie decoys. They've got all the Yeti. They've got deer stands, all the foods to build your food plots and everything. And they got a staff full of people that are knowledgeable. I went in there 3 weeks ago, the day after the presidential election. I kind of floated down there. I was on high. And it was an incredible place to visit. It's a beautiful store. And the selection of clothes and gear that they have in there, over 2,000 shotguns, rifles, and handguns in there. They've got Glock, Sig Sauer, Benelli. They've got them all in there. Hey, Kenny Winter and Dylan Monroe, the COO, dynamic duo, great place to work with, folks. Dudley, I'm telling you right now, we're going to go, we got a lot of stuff on the table of what we're going to do. Are we going to, is the portal going to blow up? But here's some interesting numbers. The portal, every school last year, and I took some interesting notes, but you look at it, every school last year took players. Average, they take about 5 or 6. 56 schools took 9 or more players. What is Arkansas looking to do in the portal in terms of addressing immediate needs? And are you hearing any names in particular?
First of all, sorry for the glitch there. It went black, so I just walked into the light and do here. But,
yeah.
I watched a game last weekend with Arkansas and Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech had 50 new players. Arkansas, I think, had 35. That's 85. That's basically half the team that had, and it's in a new place. It's going to happen Sunday. Both Coach Pittman and Coach Drinkwitz have talked about how you got to turn the page after the game Saturday.
Yeah. And Vince, Dudley hopefully be back with us. But Vince, let's talk about Tennessee. 8th in the playoff rankings last night, and you've got to go to Vanderbilt and play this weekend. I think Tennessee wins the game handily. Vanderbilt's banged up, but Tennessee is sniffing the college football playoff, they've got a lot more to play for, in my opinion. Agree or disagree? Yeah. Well, looks like it to me. But Dudley, Vince hopefully can come in. He's frozen, but Vince, jump in here when you can. But Dudley, there's so many cases this weekend of teams that are on the edge. They're 7th, 8th, and in the case of Alabama, 13th, Ole Miss 14th. You look at this football season. I don't think TV people could have drawn it up any better. But let's flip back over here to Arkansas. What are you looking for them to address need-wise in the portal and in recruiting? Because a week from today is the December signing period.
I'll give you two different things. I think they've got to go your lines for sure. But the problem is how many of these kids are going to.
Okay. Vince, let's try you again, see if we can get you to work. What a day. And talk about Tennessee, their 8th ranking, and they beat Vanderbilt, and Georgia wins the SEC. Are you looking at a rematch? I mean, in Atlanta? Not in Atlanta, but in the college football playoff. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, Rob, I don't think it'll happen. And apologies about the connection, but
okay.
I don't think it'll happen because if Georgia wins, they're going to get one of those top 4 seeds, which right now, based on rankings, is being given to Texas. And then if Georgia doesn't win the conference championship game, say they lose to either one of those 2 teams, they're going to get tagged with their 3rd loss. So then they're going to be in the back end of those at-larges with 3 losses, and Tennessee should still be ahead of them. So I think Georgia won't play in Athens, in my opinion. They'll be either with a first-round bye in as SEC champion or on the road in the back end as a 3-loss at-large team. But Tennessee's in a good spot not having to play. And as long as they take care of business against Vanderbilt, and I heard you say earlier that you think Tennessee wins handily, they should. But as you know, this year it's a tie for the second most times that ranked SEC teams have lost on the road at unranked SEC teams. It's happened 7 times this year. Carnage last week. We'll see what it looks like with a lot of pressure for these kids. And, Tennessee being 10, 11, 12-point favorites, whatever it is, there's been bigger upsets than that. And then Vanderbilt can make their century if they are able to keep Tennessee out of the college football playoffs. So that is a dangerous game if Tennessee is not dialed in offensively and if Diego Pavia is making magic like he has at times this year.
Yeah, and Dudley and I and everybody watching this show would agree. This has been a year. I don't even – do you call them upsets? The term upset is because everybody thought something and it didn't happen, so you have to agree. Oklahoma beating Alabama, that was a shocker. Tennessee, this team, the matchup against Georgia, the last 2 times they've gone to Athens, 22 and 24, was just a bad spot for Tennessee. Georgia was backed into a corner November 16th when Tennessee came to town. I had Georgia picked to win until Friday afternoon. I said, all right, I'm switching because I have a funny feeling Nico's going to have that breakout game we've been looking for. They jump up 10-0. The tight end scores a touchdown on a funny running play. And then at the half, it's tied 17-all. Once again, the lack of explosive plays from Tennessee's offense. But Tennessee's defensive front, they're special. This is Tim Banks and Rodney Garner working together have created one of the best defenses in the country. Show me a team out there that's in contention for the playoff that doesn't have a big-time defensive line front 7, Vince.
Yeah, it's I don't know how dominant Indiana's has been. I mean, they have okay numbers, but that obviously when they played their toughest competition, they didn't play well. But I think when that is something that should travel. Obviously, against Georgia, they weren't able to generate the pass rush and the affecting of the quarterback and the tackles for loss that they've been doing all year to get those numbers, Rob. No sacks, 2 tackles for loss. I mean, we're not used to seeing anything like that. They had 4 sacks and 15 tackles for loss against UTEP. Again, one of the worst teams in FBS. So where's the reality of what Tennessee can do? I think Georgia's just a tough matchup for them. And again, that matchup, that's a placeholder right now based on how the rankings look. I don't think there's a scenario where you will see Tennessee at Georgia. Probably is the case for some of these other matchups too. And if you want to look another element of those college football playoffs for whatever team, if you want to me, the game you don't want to be in is the 8-9, because that takes you right to Oregon waiting on you as the number 1 seed, as long as they beat Washington and win their conference championship game. If they look flawed, then it's wide open with everybody. If they lose to Ohio State in the conference championship game in a rematch, and Ohio State, say, even wins convincingly, then maybe you want to avoid Ohio State. But that 1 seed, the number 1 overall, that's where the 8-9 will feed into it. So if I'm someone, I don't want to be in that spot. But, Rob, we were talking about not that long ago with Tennessee being just going into last week, being on the outside, looking in the playoffs. Now they're an upset or 2 away from maybe hosting at Neyland Stadium.
Oh, my God. Dudley, can you imagine Tennessee hosting at Neyland Stadium? And I'm going to make a prediction right now in front of the whole world. They've got a new Smokey the Hound up there, and he's been kind of being eased into big-time games. That's his first appearance, Dudley. Smokey on the sidelines. I'm kind of superstitious. What do you think, Dudley? How crazy would that be in Knoxville up on the hill? They may give free sandwiches away at Gus's down on the Strip, or Death Dogs at the Pilot.
I'm sure that if that scenario plays out, everybody would be happy except for the team coming to play.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of like walking the Green Mile. A playoff in Knoxville.
I can't wait to see some of these scenarios. That committee is going to get in the room and they're going to figure some stuff out, and we're going to question it. We're also going to love those matchups. It's going to make not really the off season, but it's going to make the postseason start be so much more interesting to me.
Yeah. Dudley, I'm going to throw some of these questions for Dudley and Vince on here from our viewers. I like this. Hey, Rob, if you're still in Smyrna, which I am, I will be till Saturday or Sunday at the Daughters. 1911 is a great breakfast place to go. It's going to be hard to beat. I brought my farm fresh eggs from Crowley's Ridge, Arkansas, from the Eggman, Dean Nilsson, with me. So I've got my farm fresh eggs, but I might try it out. From an outside perspective, where do y'all view Georgia Tech on the list of rivalry games conference members compete in? Tennessee should have lost to Florida. Penciled in Florida for the next 2 national championships. You know what I love? I love the passion of the fans and the IQ of our viewers because they're smart. I'm going to throw this one to Vince. Georgia Tech, historically, clean old-fashioned hate. This year, it ain't going to be easy. Brent Key is a pretty good coach, but also want to ask y'all, in the conference, you got Clemson and South Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky, these ACC matchups, Florida State. Guys, how good is it? Thanksgiving, we got games tomorrow, Friday, Saturday. There's going to be a lot of people with, curvature of the spine from a lot of couch time, Vince. It's and all that great food, and it's duck season, it's deer season. I mean, God bless. What more do you want?
Yeah, for sure. There's so much there. First of all, you're in Smyrna, Tennessee, Rob. Is that?
Smyrna, Georgia.
Georgia. Okay.
I'm in Smyrna, Georgia, right next to Brave Stadium at Mallory's house.
Gotcha. All right. I'll be in Smyrna, Tennessee, because I'll be in Tennessee at Vanderbilt, staying with a buddy there in Nashville. So on Friday and Saturday. So I'll be there at the other Smyrna, I guess. But as far as the viewing, Rob, it's a beautiful thing because before the season, we talked about how so all these games matter for so many more teams. There's so many other layers of it that I think we undervalued. Like all the teams that now are in contention just to get into the conference championship games. Look at the Big 12 and the ACC. And so we're paying attention to those games and how it impacts seeding and who gets in and all that. But then you have to pay attention to all the teams on your team's schedule, because those things matter. Like Tennessee benefited from Florida beating Ole Miss in two ways. Got Ole Miss out of the way with a third loss. Now that improves Florida. The win over Florida makes that a better win. Oklahoma against Alabama, same thing. Third loss to Alabama. Now it improves Tennessee's third game. Tennessee wants Arkansas to finish strong with a dub and a winning record. Then maybe that takes a little bit of steam off of that loss. So all these games are impactful to how the committee overall views them. Maybe you can change some opinions, maybe you can't. But the fact that all of us and college football fans are following everyone impacted with the playoff and everyone on your schedules games because it impacts your team, I think it's really cool. And then you go with food, fun, and relaxation. If you get an opportunity to do that, it is a beautiful thing.
It really is. Dudley?
The most important thing you can have on a weekend like this is a great recliner. A lot of football games, a lot of rivalries. I've always made that an important item for me. I'm going to spend a lot of time there, and not only with that, you get Arkansas's playing Illinois in basketball in Kansas City. You got NFL games. Some of them you're going to have to search for on networks you're not sure you have. I think, but it's going to be a fun weekend of both coverage and watching. And again, I can't stress how important, especially now at 61, that the proper recliner is to the happy working environment.
I would love to have a recliner, maybe a Lazy Boy or someone as a sponsor, because we could award one to have a contest on the show and someone win a recliner. But I'm going to tell you, and then we got basketball going up. I stayed up late last night. Auburn beats North Carolina 85-72. They play Memphis. That's going to be fun, especially for Dr. Bill Hardgrave, the president of the University of Memphis. But they play out in Hawaii. Hawaii, as Coach Reed called it. But, guys, we got Tennessee coming, Arkansas. Y'all cover those.
I just hang out in my recliner here all day, every day. I don't really leave. So if anybody wants to sponsor me, that'd be great. If I could get one of those chairs that just goes up and down. Well, and get a fridge up here or something.
Brendan, some of the guys on the trading floor were buying those desks that raise up, and where you can stand. And I don't know how
it's called the Vera desk. I've had them. That's just entirely too much effort to stand all day. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. What did Churchill say? Why stand when you can sit?
Yeah. I got one of those pee things that the astronauts got. I just keep that strapped on me, and then I just stay in the studio until the playoffs are over. So, because I'm here for y'all. So,
well, he is. And last night,
anybody wants to sponsor me in my back? I'm 6'4". It's painful. That's all I have to say.
Hey, I had a client who was 6'9", played basketball, college basketball, and I would bring him duck hunting, and when he would sleep on a couch in the den because it was like watching a water turkey, and Anhinga lay out with its wings to dry. It was spread everywhere. 6'9", and he was in great shape. But being 6'9" at night time is kind of tough. Guys, we're covering a lot of ground. The SEC, again, we're going to be heavy basketball. Dudley, God, John Calipari being up there. When he was in Memphis, one thing about it, when he left, people were mad as hell. That's because he's a hell of a coach, and he gets people excited. Vince, you've got Rick Barnes up there from Hickory, North Carolina, Todd Golden at Florida, Bruce Pearl at Auburn, Chris Beard at Ole Miss. You just picked the school. As strong as the SEC is in football, just real quick before we go, start with you, Dudley. How good is the league going to be in basketball this year, top to bottom? Call it parity, call it whatever. What do you think?
Yeah, back in the today, this would be blasphemy, but I think the SEC is a better basketball league than it is a football one. It's right off the bat here. Big wins last night for, Auburn and Alabama. The ACC kind of took it on the head a little bit, even though they some great teams as well. But yeah, the SEC is going to be a war. There's not many teams out there that you're going to be able to walk into their arena and say that's a win. And this could be eating your own, just like football.
Vince, I think 14-4 wins the league this year.
Yeah, it could very well be that. Tennessee's in that group that's off to a great start too. 6-0. They won the Bahamas championship, and they beat Virginia, who's not the same as they typically are, but they dismantled Baylor, who was number 13 at the time. Chazanier hit 7 3-pointers in a 25-point first half. That's the most made 3-pointers by any player in college basketball in any half this year. He's starting to get people to say the name Dalton Connect. Now, I think that's a little quick. Connect sustain that, but the fact that Rick Barnes has now found an offensive guy and Milicic is that 2 inside, this is a very different team. But if either Lanier or Milicic can be a closer for them at the end of games, man, this team will be very, very tough to beat and be right there with Auburn and Alabama. I agree. Nobody's had better wins than Auburn. So those are the top, but Tennessee will be right in that mix, I believe, as well.
Well, look, there's nobody's got the lock on great wins, but it's fun to watch it. And people say the regular season doesn't matter. They're out of their mind. And when you've got a good team, you're watching every game. I mean, like say, I watch the Grizzlies, and I watch all these teams play. I'll tell you what I am going to miss, though. I'm going to miss those late night games in the Pac-12 with Bill Walton talking about stuff that has nothing to do with the game. I will miss that guy. As a kid, I was traumatized when he was 21 of 22 against my Memphis State Tigers in St. Louis for the national championship in basketball. But I met him a few years ago in Memphis at a morning speech, and he was the nicest guy, at least he was to me. His parents were librarians. He was this ordinary guy, but the love and respect he had for his coach and lifelong mentor, like a father figure, John Wooden. It's just, I pick up on stuff like that. And I'll tell you another one. You look at all these guys that do these basketball games. There's college basketball on TV is as good as it gets. So, guys, look, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, Vince Ferrara, the sports animal at Vince Sports. Dudley, what's your Twitter handle?
Sports, D Sports.
DED, Dudley Eugene Dawson Sports. All right, guys, look, happy Thanksgiving to you, Vince, and to Dudley Dawson. We're going to wrap it up and say something about our sponsors. Thank you all so much. Landers Ford, people, get out there. They're open Monday through Saturday, every day of the week except Sunday, okay? They are 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the service department, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the sales department. $500 off for SEC Sidelines audience members. The number one Ford dealership in the Mid-South, Poplar and Houston Levy, LandersFordMemphis.com. LandersFordMemphis.com. Take a picture of that QR code. Ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. Let him know you heard about him on Sidelines. They've got all the Broncos, the F-150s, the Lariats, the King Ranches, Explorers, Expeditions.
I would be so thankful for a Bronco.
Yeah, I tell you, Dudley, we saw a soft top Sasquatch Bronco at Namdame. It's a grocery store here in Smyrna, Georgia, not Tennessee. Smyrna, Tennessee, though, pretty cool, home of the Saturn plant. But great people to work with at Landers. And I'll tell you, you think about the people that are out there, the salespeople, they make the process easy when you go in there to buy a new car, truck, or SUV, and get online, get the process started. But ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. They're great to work with. And also our friends at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. So a lot of people kind of winding down today for the rest of the week. You're going into the weekend, Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. Get out there to Hewlett and Dunn. Take a picture of that QR code on your phone. Take the virtual tour and take the tour in person. Thousands of pairs of men's and women's boots, duck heads, Filson, Barber, Duck Camp, STS. They've got the Schaefer and Pendleton, some of the best looking outdoor gear and just day-to-day wear. They've got blazers from Duckhead. They've got it all, and they are, again, open 10 a.m., 6 p.m., Sundays, starting this weekend, 12 noon to 5 p.m. And, again, the Vitamin Shop, folks, look, I've been taking this stuff. It's a prebiotic. A lot of the food we have makes our guts infected. They've got all kinds of great supplements and vitamins. Vitamin Shop in Oxford and Olive Branch, Mississippi, and Exo Armor making the non-invasive pads. All these can be found on our website at sidelines.live, and the QR codes are put up. Brendan, great show. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks for watching. We live in the most blessed country in the world. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out. The stronger you are yourself, the more you can help other people.
And we'll see you on
the arguments. Hey, Brendan, what are
Friday.
the arguments going to be like tomorrow at Thanksgiving table? Not about politics, but about the final 12 teams in the playoffs.
We have a great Thanksgiving plan tomorrow, so it's going to be awesome at my cousin's house. So we'll be watching football with Buddy and the gang. It's a big sports family, let me tell you.
Really?
We'll be playing football in the backyard. It's going to be awesome.
But at 6'4", I'd be throwing the fade route to the corner to you as you tower over.
No, we'll just be talking a lot about this guy, probably. I'm sure.
Is that Mr. Lagway?
Happy Thanksgiving to all those Gators out there, including this guy.
All right,
Thank you, DJ Lagway. I am very thankful for you.
Yeah,
kind
I'm
sir.
thankful. I'm thankful to be alive and live in America and have the best executive producer in the world and the greatest sponsors and viewers and audience. So y'all be good. We'll see you Friday
Happy
morning.
Thanksgiving Friday morning. We'll be back.
Taking off tomorrow, Brendan?
No, Rob. I work every day. I'll be right here. I got a cookie. I got a turkey in the oven and a cookie baking in the other oven. I got a double boiler right here. I just never leave. It's like right here.
Well, we're blessed, man. Hey, look, we'll see y'all again tomorrow, Friday.
Yeah, we're not doing the show tomorrow, Rob. I don't know if you can handle it. Rob, you can't talk tomorrow. Audrey's going to kill me.
Yeah, no show tomorrow. Y'all be good. Good night, John Boy. Watch the Buddy Martin Show tonight on this channel, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.